Greetings all. We're waiting a few more minutes for our presenter to join us. Thank you for joining.
I believe that's Marvin.
Yes, yeah, I see now. Can I mute him?
Oh,
Okay.
hey,
Hey, greetings. Yes.
is there like a lot of background noise for me?
Yes.
Because I'm on a bus, so I'm going to unmute it because I'm speaking, okay?
Okay. Thank you. All right. All right, we're going to get started. Our presenters here traveling from Albany. How awesome is that? Greetings all. Welcome to the Social Justice Committee meeting on tonight. We have a presenter here, Marvin Mayfield, who will be speaking to us on regarding Clean Slate New York State, as well as maybe a few other bills that needs to be passed through legislation, hopefully. So welcome everyone. And he is traveling back from Albany, so we appreciate him being here. And Sarah, you need to say any few words, and then we'll jump in and give his speech as well. You need to say anything, Sarah? No. Okay. Well, you can give the instructions, Will, and then after that, Marvin, you can start.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. If this is your first time joining us, you'll notice that you're muted and you're unable to unmute yourself. Only people who will be unmuted at most time of the meeting will be the presenter and our co-chairs. Following the presentation, the co-chairs will call on members of the public who wish to speak. You can participate by going to the reactions icon at the bottom of your screen and pressing the raise hand button there. And it's not the wave or the thumbs up, those will disappear. You can, if you're calling in from the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. We ask that you be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once one of the co-chairs calls on you. If you're having problems, the chat is available for technical support only. It is not to ask questions of the co-chairs or the presenter. They will never see those chats. And if you're using an older version of Zoom, you may need to go to the participants section where you'll find the raise hand feature there. And finally, we encourage you not to raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because we might miss you and not be able to see you. So chat me if you're having problems. I'm here to support. I'll pass it over to our co-chairs and our presenter.
Thank you, Will. Marvin, whenever you're settled, you can, we'll have to unmute you again, but whenever you're settled, take it away.
Okay. You have to forgive me. Hang on. Right. Hello, still there? Okay.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. And first of all, I hope you can hear me okay. Um, First of all, I want to apologize for the confusion. I mean, I had ample warning that this was going to happen this evening, and I wanted to be prepared, but the way the political climate is right now in Albany, certain things had to be addressed in a rapid response. So I've been back and forth with Albany every day, and if you had to live under a rock not to know these two words, bail reform, which we are so valiantly fighting for right now, so it doesn't get rolled back or have any further we lose any further ground. And that's how very important it is. But mainly, what I'm here to speak to you about tonight is the campaign that we're pushing forward for the Clean Slate campaign. Now, I don't know how many of you know what the Clean Slate campaign is, but just let me just tell you what Clean Slate really covers. The Clean Slate campaign was designed to eliminate barriers that people who have conviction records face. Currently, if you have a conviction record, you face barriers to housing, to jobs, to education, to bank loans, and all kinds of things that these things affect. But one of the most, I guess, perplexing things for people who are returning from jails and prisons is that they need jobs and they need housing. And these things have been denied to them so routinely that something has to be done to address this. So hence comes the Clean Slate campaign. The Clean Slate campaign is a campaign designed to seal a person's conviction records so that these entities do not have access to them to be able to discriminate against them. One of the caveats to this is that even though a person has completed this sentence and becomes eligible for this relief, that licensing agencies and law enforcement may still have access to these records. But the general public, like a landlord or an employer, will not be able to look at a person's conviction record and base a determination to hire them or to house them based on the information they find in that record. So the Clean Slate legislation would seal these convictions after 3 years from a person has been removed from any type of parole or probation, and that means for 3 years for a misdemeanor and 7 years for a felony. So that means the person completes the sentence, they do their parole and probation time or whatever it is, and then they become eligible for the Clean Slate legislation, meaning that no one has access to their records except law enforcement or a licensing agency. Now, where we're at right now with this legislation is that it is it's in the Senate right now. It's in the Senate being voted on. It's in the Assembly being voted on, and it's in the executive hands right now. That means it's in three different houses right now as we speak, being voted on. We believe that Clean Slate is going to pass in this legislative session. However, there's one big, and I mean really big, discrepancy with getting this legislation passed, because there are two versions. One is the version that the advocates and that we put together, which we call, and our legislators, which we call the legislative version. Now, this version, right, we believe is the gold standard that would give the most relief to the most people in the quickest amount of time. The governor's version significantly increases the delay and waiting time for the person to be able to benefit from the Clean Slate legislation. They want to get it passed, but their version says that, okay, we want to wait until a person is completely off of probation and parole before the clock starts ticking on that 3 years and that 7 years, respectively. Our version says that when a person comes out, and every day that they're in the community, about 3 years and 7 years starts ticking. And also with the governor's version, they eliminated the aspect of any enforcement mechanisms. So without any teeth, without any repercussions, without any oversight of this legislation, people will just violate a person's right, and without any without any repercussions. So the enforcement mechanisms have to be in place in our version to make sure that landlords and prospective employers and other entities adhere to the legislation as it is, as it is written. So this is the big discrepancy between those two versions. We have been up in Albany all week, this week, last week, pushing, letting our legislators know in the Senate and in the Assembly that the legislative version is what we need pushed. As of 2 hours ago, I just got some intel from one of our Assembly members that they had just come out of conference and that the governor has conceded to include the enforcement mechanisms in our legislation. So we're that much closer. We're that much closer to getting the bill passed that we wrote that we want. And I don't know. I don't know how many of you are. Catalina Cruz is is a sponsor, one of the sponsors in the Assembly, who has been really pushing for this legislation and been very passionate about it, and tirelessly trying to get this legislation passed in this session. And as I said earlier, I think everyone involved, right? The legislators, the Senate, the Assembly, even the governor and all the advocates believe that the time has come that Clean Slate will be passed this legislative session. But the big deal right now is which version. And this is what we have to stay vigilant about until the very end. The budget comes in on April 1st. And if Clean Slate is included in the governor's budget for April 1st, this is how the fight is there. That's what we're pushing for, to get it in, to get it passed. We were so close last year, the last legislative session. I mean, I could still hear, a long, sad sighs, but at the end of session, when we just knew if we had it done, people still, we're still feeling that. But, personally, we put the work in, right? We put the work in. We did what we had to do. We put our seeds, we shoveled the ground, we put our seeds in, and God gave the increase. And we believe that right now, right, that we're in a very good position to see our legislative version get passed. But we cannot rest about it. We must be vigilant. We have to be in their faces. We have to call our legislators and let them know that we want this legislative version. We will not accept anything else. So, and I think the governor is somewhat listening. And I don't want to muddy the waters right now discussing the current issues on bail, which she just went berserk on me. So anyway, but like I said, we're here to discuss the Clean Slate issues. And as I said, the Clean Slate legislation is meant so that people, right? I mean, people who have faced these barriers, people who have done their time and paid their so-called debt to society, right, have been they have proven themselves, right, that they are ready to be re-immersed into society, and they need that opportunity without being, denied the chance to get jobs, denied the chance to live in decent neighborhoods and take care of their children. It is a God-given right, and for us to deny that to people on the basis of a conviction just is not right. It's not smart, and it is counterproductive to the fiscal viability of our community. So, Clean Slate, right, is economic, an economic imperative. It is a racial a discrimination imperative. It is a jobs imperative. So we're pushing it forward, and we're not categorizing it so much as criminal justice reform, but more so an economic justice reform. So if anybody's got any questions about that, I'd be happy to try to answer them right now. And I might even surprise myself and have an answer.
I don't really have a question, but I would like you to just give our the people in the meeting, the board and the attendees, a little background about yourself and why you do this work, and then we can open it up for questions, and they can raise their hand.
Absolutely, Sister Minister. I'd be happy to do that. And I don't know if people know our background and history, but I'm a member of the AME Zion Church as a, Sandra and I met through church. We're both believers and people who are passionate about seeing our communities thrive, about ending the cycle of abuse, racism, poverty, and the things that have been oppressing our communities for so long. I'm a person that has also been directly impacted and affected by the criminal justice system. As a person who's been formerly incarcerated myself, I know all too intimately the horrors, the things that people face while they're inside and when they get out. I mean, this is called perpetual punishment. When a person has completed everything and is still being punished for something they did 10, 15, 20, even 30 years ago, this is something that we must put an end to. So this perpetual punishment is really, really personal to me. I have persevered on many occasions, right, where I have gotten so discouraged because of not being able to find a job or not being able to get ahead, and I had contemplated doing things that would send me back to prison. And too many people are facing those same situations right now. And they don't want to, but what can we do? I mean, here's the reality, right? A person spends years and years, maybe even decades in prison. And they are thrust on the street, right? With $40 in a bus ticket. And in many cases, the only destination they have is the number to a shelter. We just went in the tunnel, guys, so hey, you may not be able to see me. But the only destination they have is a shuttle with $40 in their pocket after doing 20 years. Now, let me tell you something. I spent $40 on lunch yesterday, all right? Now, let me tell you, how is a person going to be able to navigate these mean streets without the basic necessities, and then they're being denied to them? Come on. This is perpetual punishment at its finest. And this is why I got into this, Andrea. I got into this because, honestly, let me tell you how this worked, right? I don't think that I had some great epiphany. I don't think I developed some great humanitarian aspect of myself. What brought me to this was that I was a victim of some of the policies, right? And I wanted to get some damn payback. And I'm not going to start cussing because I'm really usually a spiritual person. But, this sugar honey iced tea got me upset. So I came to do this, to get into this, to get some payback. But along the way, I realized that there were so many others, right, who have had the same situation as me. And if I can be a voice to lift them up, then that is my calling, that is my duty. And that's why I'm in this somewhere.
Well, thank you. We commend you for being out there. And we totally understand you trying to get back to the city, and you could have canceled on us and you didn't. So thank you for being here, and we appreciate you. Sarah, you want to jump in before people raise their hands? Wendy's giving you a hand clap. Please raise your hands for any questions. And Sarah, any words from you, co-chair?
Yeah. So first of all, Marvin, thank you for advocating for bail reform. And for those who aren't familiar with the state's legislative process, a lot of policy gets folded into the budget bill, which is due on April 1st. And so Marvin is going back and forth every single day because every single day something new is happening. We don't know anything until the governor signs the budget bill. What sort of policy changes will be folded into it. And bail reform is one of the major ones right now. I wanted to ask you, Marvin, so the research in the criminal justice field clearly says that housing and employment are key factors to keeping people out of incarceration. And so even with the clean slate bill, how do we get people to that 3-year point or to that 7-year point if they come out of prison without the resources that you mentioned? And so are there other resources that get people to that 3 and 7-year point, or is that something else that we need to advocate for? Oh, sorry, Will, can you unmute Marvin, please? Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Can you hear me now? Okay, am I unmuted? Okay, good. That is such a good question. That is it's such a great question. Getting people to those 3 years and those 7 year marks, are real is that's the whole issue. And I'm so discouraged by some of the things that I'm seeing, and I have to go back to revert to bail reform. You know how the legislature, the government, the state is funneling all this money through jails and prisons and spending X amount of dollars to keep people incarcerated pre-trial when they're not even guilty of anything, and we know that these are just uh, pretrial status is concentrated in black and brown communities in our neighborhoods that are poor. We know this already, right? So getting people right to those milestones, 3 and 7, requires community investments, right? Instead of them funneling money back and forth into these jails and prisons, we need investments. Right now, we're asking for $1 billion in investments for education, for housing, for mental health. Right now, instead of funneling more money back into these carceral initiatives. So, but I must also say, and this is the responsibility of us, one another, right? I'm a foster parent, right? I've been a foster parent for over 20 years. I work with at youth risk teenage young men and women sometimes who come into our home, right? Who have have come out of detention, group homes, and some really severe stuff out in the streets, right? They're teenagers between 15 and 21, and they come into our home with all kinds of issues, right? And my wife and I do our best to show them encouragement, to show them love, to show them patience, knowing that they're in a safe environment where nobody is going to try to abuse them, molest them, or exploit them in any way, right? So it is about us as a community to be able to embrace those people who are coming out of jails and prisons and help them and direct them. And you know what? One of the most important things that a person can use, right, when they're coming out of a prison is to be funded. I mean, simple things, simple little things. I remember coming home myself and not having a Metro card, to get around to make to my appointments. I remember finishing a rally one day and everybody patted me on the back and said, "Marvin, that was a great speech." I looked around in the hot sun that day and didn't have enough to buy a hot dog. These are the things that we have to be acutely aware of with people that are coming home from prison so they don't get discouraged. They need our support, and not just our support saying, "You go, boy, pull yourself up." No, they need lunch, all right? They need transportation. They need direction how to make it to those 3 year, 7 year marks, because it ain't easy. When you guys start building up these denials because of perpetual punishment, because of these conviction records, denying you get door slams in your face, it creates a sense of discouragement. And something like that is really, really hard to combat, but it can be only when we work together with the people who are coming home. They are our community as well, and we are just as responsible. So, I mean, we're working for this legislation. Once we get it passed, that means that I don't care if you want to be a bigot or a racist, you won't have the luxury of the law supporting your racism. That's why we fight for legislation on that type of level that affects everybody. We're going to change the laws so that these people cannot exploit us by using the law. One of the most poignant things that I heard in the past decade about criminal justice reform was that I believe it was one of our senators. And I don't want to attribute to the wrong one, but she went into a prison, right? Visited the prison, saw the conditions, said that they were horrible, deplorable, inhumane, right? But in everything that she saw, none of it was illegal. That is what we have to change. That is what clean slate is about. That is what bail reform is about. That's what criminal justice reform is about. I know we don't live in a utopian society where we're all sitting holding hands and singing kumbaya. But I know in my heart of hearts that we as a society can do better to protect and uphold the least of those who we call our brothers and sisters. So that's where I'm at, and that's what got me in this fight. Any more questions?
Any more questions? Please raise your hand. The floor is open for questions. And I will add, Marvin's not a stranger to Community Board 8. He has presented before here in the past few years ago.
And I would like to do so again. So.
Yeah.
Like to do so again.
Wait.
So in
You definitely will.
In the absence of any questions, that just means that I cover the bases. All right. Okay,
No.
good.
Yeah, we have one. We have one, Miss Rita.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Marvin. I think you do God's work. It's really bad business not to do it your way. It's bad business. It guarantees recidivism. It guarantees that people who are pushed down don't get up. It is awful. It is also very prejudicial because I use Harvey Weinstein as an example, a white man who could go free on bail, whereas a person of color couldn't go free. They would be in jail waiting for trial. What can we do? What can we do to help?
Thank you. That is that's the quintessential question. What can we all do to help? You know, I'm looking at you, and I know that we don't share the same degree of melanin in our skin, right? And we don't come from the same community, but we share the same values, right? And I do not mince my words or hold back, right? I know that a lot of our stories are not really, what's the word I feel? Not accepted, but to identified with by a lot of white people. They don't understand a lot of things that happen to us in our communities. And I think it is a credit to you as a person to be able to identify and to, have empathy in this area, seeing, right, that this type of a policy, right, is geared toward one particular, geared toward a particular class of people. So what you can do, right, and what you have done already is to acknowledge that and to let people know. I mean, it's just the more our mainstream society knows about what's happening is really helpful. And we can also use a tool that we have to call our legislators. Let them know what we're fighting for. Let them know the campaigns that we are pushing for. Every day, without exception, our legislators who are on our side are asking for constituents to call in and let their voices be heard. That gives them more ammunition when they go into conference.
I have one more question. Are you getting did I lose him?
No, he's
Looks like we
just
did
muted
for-
right now. He'll unmute in
Okay.
a second.
Okay.
Tell me when.
I think he's
Actually,
gone.
we did lose him.
Yeah, we did lose him for a second. Okay. So pause your question and see if he tries to get back on. Yeah.
No, I wanted to know where the opposition comes from. Is it from upstate? Is it from or is it from downstate to where the big cities are? I mean, we're in New York. I mean, New York is obviously the big city, but I mean, is the opposition coming from Westchester? Is it coming from Long Island? is it coming from Buffalo? Is it coming from, where is it coming from? Because if it's coming from
coming back
places that don't understand it, then we have work to do.
All right, Rita.
He's back on. You can ask him again.
Hey, folks. I apologize. That's what
Hi,
happened to
how are you?
going
It's
in and
okay.
out of tunnel.
We went to dinner and now we're back.
Okay. Listen, I've only got a couple more minutes, guys. I think
Okay.
I'm about to reach my destination. So.
Marvin,
Okay.
Marvin,
Yes, I'm here.
yeah. Where is your opposition from? Is it from upstate New York? Is it like Buffalo, or is it downstate, like New York City, Long Island, Westchester? Where is your, are you fighting?
Well, I would say opposition is concentrated in some of the, I would say more areas in Long Island, Westchester, upstate, some of those places like, the Comiskey crew out in Long Island. I don't know if you're familiar with those folks. That's where a lot of our opposition is coming from. And then, really, so, it's all over the state in some of these conservative communities that vote Republican. It's really a partisan thing. Most Republicans are not voting with us. Most of them are the opposition. But the beauty of it is that right now we have a supermajority, our Democrats have a supermajority and don't necessarily need to counter the vote of the of our opposition. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
She's muted. Rita. Can you unmute Rita? Rita's muted. Yeah.
Go ahead, Rita.
We know that the Republicans are too busy marching on the Capitol to watch where their people are going. But is there anything that we could do? Is there any legislator that you feel that we could write to and make a difference?
Every legislator right now, every legislator is eligible to support the bill and to vote no on the budget if it contains anything that would change bail reform. So if you are, and who they listen to mainly are their constituents. If you are a constituent of a certain legislator, please call them. It's with the simple message of saying, I support clean slate. I support no changes to bail reform. It is important. It is impactful. It is powerful. It is a tool that we have.
Thank you. Wendy, thank you, Rita. Wendy, I know you got to go.
And I saw I believe there's a voice printout of me speaking, right? And it said, this is the tool that we have. No, I said tool, Tool. Use that tool. Call your legislator. Let them know that you oppose any budget that may include changes to bail, and we do support the Clean Slate Initiative.
Okay. Get a CTA going. Call to action.
That's
Work
right.
on that.
And there is an app called a Phone to Action that I can share that with you, Sandrea, and you can pass it along.
Okay.
And all you do is open this app, type in your name, the name of your legislator, and it's automatic, and the rest is automatic.
Okay. If you could text that to me, or I don't know if you can get it in the chat now, but if you could text it to me, I'll make sure everyone gets it. Wendy, we have one more.
Sister Minister, I am on my phone, right?
Okay, got you. No problem. Later. Miss Wendy?
I think that we're all thinking along the same lines here, because I was going to ask if someone could put in the chat the bill number and where it is, and the deadline is just this week, right? It's April 1st is the deadline.
Yep,
So,
that's right. And I will
we,
as soon as I get a chance, I will forward the bill numbers.
That would be awesome, and then we would be able to run with that.
Right, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Rita again. Miss Rita.
All right, guys, I'm gonna have to cut it off. Here's my last.
Okay. Okay.
My last question was my last question. I'm at my
Miss Rita.
destination. I apologize. Sir.
I think that we need a resolution to go to our representatives in Albany and tell them how we feel.
Okay.
Do I make a motion that we form a resolution and send it immediately to our Albany representatives, Liz Kruger, Jose Serrano,
Becca Seawright,
Right,
Eddie Gibbs.
yeah, and
Mhm.
Dan
Yeah.
Quart.
Yeah.
Because right now it's when they are doing the budget. So
Okay.
Does anybody agree? Should we do it?
You need a second. Are you making a formal motion? You're making a motion, right, Rita?
Make a motion that we immediately send a letter to our elected officials and tell them how important it is this legislation is to us that it must pass.
A letter or a resolution, though?
Well, it's a letter.
Okay.
It's a letter.
That would be quicker than
Yeah.
because the reso we would
And they're in
Okay.
session now.
You don't technically need to vote on sending a letter,
Right.
though.
No. Yeah. Okay. Is that something you want to work offline, Sarah? Is that something? What you think?
Yeah. Well, Rita, would you like to?
Thanks everyone. I'm sorry to interrupt, but thank you so much. But my
Thank
time
you.
has come. I gotta go.
We appreciate
Thanks
you too.
everyone.
Thank you.
Great to see you all. Listen, clean slate, can't wait. We got to do this now, and I know I don't have a vote in this, but that resolution and that letter sounds like a real good idea. Thank you, folks.
We'll make
Take
sure
care.
you get a copy. Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Rita, we could definitely work on a letter from the Social Justice Committee that we can have sent out as quickly as possible. But if you would like to make a resolution, we can also take a position as a board, because it's possible that if the bill doesn't get incorporated into the budget, that it continues on in the session, or that there's more discussion later on. So we can still take a position on clean slate.
I make a motion that we do a resolution and that we also do a letter. The letter is for immediacy.
Time sensitive. Yeah.
And the resolution is to let the whole board know what has to be done, what should be done. I get very passionate.
Okay.
And I think I'm the only, Sandra, you and I think need to second it.
Right. One of us can do it. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll second it. Because I know we have our public member, Wendy, too. But yeah, okay, I'll second it.
Great.
Okay. So are we going to work on that offline as well as the letter, or what you think?
You want to do it right? Should we do it right now? The letter, I mean, I don't see this being very long. We are supporting what is already before them, and we want them to act on it. So it's very difficult to hear, because whoever Marvin was sitting near was talking loud and fast, and so I think can we do it right now? Let's do it right
The letter?
now. Yeah.
The letter?
Yeah. Let's get the bones of the letter, and then you can do the formal
Resol later. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. We have another hand up. Boaz. Hi.
Hey,
Oh, we got two.
Yeah, so I support this bill. I support this bill. Actually, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Right now, basically, what happens. And by the way, I know that Rita was saying the statement. The Republican are busy in doing marches. I don't know. I mean, but it's not related to Republican or Democrats, right? I mean, it's something that makes sense. I think that actually, believe it or not, I will find and I will send you to the info CB8. Believe it or not, I think even Donald Trump did something around this, reduce the criminal, did some work around this area, good work around this area. The problem is, and I think that what I would like to see is that business would not be able to ask a person about his history if it's not relevant to the job, right? That's what we are saying. Just like I was raised and born in Israel. We have something like that in Israel. So a business cannot ask almost anything that is not related to the job, to the skills that you need for the job. They cannot ask if you are married. They cannot ask if you are single. They cannot ask if you are pregnant. It's not relevant, right? They can only ask you questions related to the job. And I think that this is so yeah, I'm in favor. I mean, send a letter and let's go for it. Yeah.
And I think if we can get whereases down for the resolution, that we just take the whereases out and connect it all into language for a letter. And so if folks can share whereases that they're interested in, I'm trying to type a few out right now. But I can do that while we go on with the comments from our community members.
Okay. Stephanie?
Stephanie, just unmute, please. Stephanie, I can't hear you. Do you have any like headphones plugged in or something to your computer? Or like Bluetooth headphones that are connected? I can see you, but we cannot hear you. I hope you're saying you'll put it into the chat, but if not, sign out,
Yeah,
sign
that's
back in, and see if that fixes it.
We could have Rita and Wendy unmuted to help with the verbiage of the letter if you want, Sarah. So they can chime in when they can. Wendy's a writer. I know. Okay.
Do we know what the what Marvin had proposed, because we want to support that? So do we have that? Do we have his proposal or
His writings.
his writings?
I called it the legislative version of the Clean Slate Bill.
He said it was two versions, right? The advocates and then the governors as well, remember? And we probably want to push for the advocates one.
Right.
I took notes.
So from his Twitter, I found the state bills. I'm just going to put those in
Yes.
the chat for everybody.
Yeah, I got them too, the state and assembly. I just pulled them up. Okay, thanks, Will.
Okay, definitely. The-
1553C and Assembly Bill 639. Let's see.
Sponsored by Zelmer
90.
Myrie, so it must be that one.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is share my screen.
Okay.
And then that way we can compose a resolution. Oh, Will, can you allow me to share screen, please?
I of course can. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead. You can do it now.
Thank you. Okay, here we are. Share. What are you all seeing here? Are you seeing the right screen?
We see the
See your
screen.
notes.
Are you seeing a Google Doc?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Okay. So so if folks have suggestions, I'm just typing.
Mhm.
Let's enumerate. It is economically feasible. It stops recidivism. It is positive instead of, it turns people into viable citizens, not viable, contributing citizens.
The ability, I would say, to contribute.
Wouldn't
because-
the whereas start with the conditions that are present, whereas prisoners who've completely paid off their debt to society continue to face
discrimination.
unintended maybe discrimination and punishment beyond their sentences when they're subjected to discriminatory practices and housing, jobs, and in other arenas. Somebody has to clean up this language, but I think a whereas would just sort of say what the existing condition is.
And we've been rejoined by Stephanie, and we can actually hear you now.
Yes.
So if you wanted
Oh,
to,
good. No, I'll just listen for the time being. And hopefully when the bill comes to us, you will send it to all of us who are on the call now.
it's in the chat, but I'll resend it because you probably missed it while you were
Right.
out.
Basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going, this is almost like Hester Prynne in The Scarlet Letter, that if you have been incarcerated and you have done your time and you come out, you carry that as if it was a letter on your forehead, and it precedes you for anything in life, which is wrong. You have made amends, you have served your time, and it should not be part of life, as that young man said, is that you can't ask certain questions. But I say that, and though divert for a moment is that Lindsey Graham asked this very overly qualified woman for, to become Justice of the Supreme Court, what religion she was. Nobody's allowed to ask you that. But here's a senator asking a most educated woman, and nobody said anything. Nobody said you can't ask the question. So the stigma of being incarcerated is something that you should not carry around for your entire life once you have fulfilled your obligation to righting the wrong. That's basically what I think.
Yeah. At the end of the day, everybody deserves second chances. So, and that's when they hold it over their head, it's difficult when they come home,
Right.
And then they're stuck on parole as well, some of them. So this doesn't even kick in yet till they're off parole, most likely. So that's another problem.
And we perpetuate recidivism because out of frustration that they can't get a job and they need money. And so therefore they use illicit means of getting it because they have to exist. So it's by not supporting these people and clearing the way that once you have fulfilled your obligations, that you are entitled as a human being, you are entitled to life just like everybody else.
So I warn everyone that my brain is totally frazzled from, and so this is not going to be pretty unless someone gives me pretty language to type down right now. And, but I do want to kind of at least get the bones of it. So please let me know where to insert these whereases.
Sarah, you're very modest because you're brilliant at this.
Right.
You're very kind.
Just seriously.
Supports.
Now this is for the resolution, correct?
Yeah, and I think we can just take out the whereases and the therefore be it resolves and just mush it into a letter.
To a letter, yeah.
Right.
Support the Clean Slate Act.
Excellent job. Thank you, Sarah.
It's proposed.
And Sandrea too. I mean, I would not have heard of Marvin if it wasn't for you ladies. Thank you. It's sad that he is so frustrated doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It really.
Yeah. Yeah, it was on the floor last year. It didn't pass. So yeah.
That's why I asked where, who, and I'm sure it's. I'm not going to say. I'm sure it was. I was going to say, I'm sure it's the Republicans because so down on them these days.
Okay, this is very bare bones, but here is what we have on screen right now. and of course can always be improved with your great feedback. So whereas people who have experienced incarceration continue to experience discrimination in housing and employment sectors even after they have served their time, whereas research has shown, and I can cite those papers, research has shown that housing and employment support people's ability to continue their contributions to society and prevent recidivism, whereas we believe that the stigma of incarceration should not be a perpetual punishment for people who are rejoining their communities. Whereas as a community, that sounds weird, but as a community, we believe that we are more successful when we support one another and set up our returning community members up for success. Therefore, be it resolved, CB8 supports the Clean Slate Act, Senate Bill 1553C, A6399B, as proposed by advocates and policymakers to ensure our communities grow stronger together.
Perfect.
Yeah, got it.
Perfect.
Awesome.
We still have some hands up.
Erica?
Go ahead, Erica, you can unmute. Erica, we'll give you another couple of seconds and we can move on and come back to you. Why don't we move on to the next person? We'll come back to Erica. She says it's rejecting. Look for a button and that should pop up that says unmute.
Today must be just one of those days on Zoom.
Yeah.
I was able to unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes.
Sarah, this looks really great. When you read that part where it said, whereas as a community, maybe like flip it, like whereas we believe as a community. I don't know if that flows better.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else while you're sharing these great suggestions?
No, I think it looks really great, and especially for resolution, you typed that real fast. So this looks amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. And can I ask you before you remute, how do I pronounce your name? Is it
It's
Jahan?
Jihan. Yeah, Jihan.
Jahan. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's try Erica this time. There you go.
Yay.
Okay. Sorry about that. You know, people are asking where this is coming from. And I guess I would ask, how many sessions have we had now where Democrats have been in the majority? Because the issue is Stuart Cousins and Hestes, they're not putting themselves out there for votes that they know they don't have. The same thing is happening with universal health care. The same thing is happening with this bail reform. The same thing is happening with all of the social services for people throughout the state. There's been a Democratic majority for several years now, and the bills that are going to help people are not passing overwhelmingly. And they've said it. They've said that they're not going to put themselves out there if they know they don't have the votes for it. This is not new. This is how politics is done. We also know that politicians outside of where you live, your opinions have no sway on them. They're not within our districts. And so our representatives can say they support it, but they also go into it knowing what Andrea Stewart Cousins and Hestes won't support. So everybody's sitting around saying on every call I join about anything, we have a Democratic majority. Why isn't this happening? And it's not happening because the people in power don't want it to happen. It doesn't matter that they're Democrats because Hochul is supporting bail reform. Again, she's going further than Cuomo at this point. So I've been on email to Kruger and Seawright. I've been on email to Hochul. There's so much going on now that I'm supporting when it comes to the judicial system, and there is no forward motion in any of it because our representatives, our Democratic representatives, aren't putting their necks out on the line to get it done. That's exactly why this is all happening, or not, as the case may be.
Yeah. And Erica, I'd add to this that in New York State, we have a number of communities that rely on, like, their economic engine is based on the prison economy.
Right.
And so for them, to us, we're looking at this as an anti-carceral measure, and that for other folks in the state, they're looking at it as a bread and butter measure.
When you look at upstate and you look at, like, where the prisons are, like Dannemora and places like that, that's their livelihood.
Yeah.
And I can certainly appreciate that, but we're not talking about making sneakers.
Right.
That's a whole other conversation about, about retraining people. But this is what I've seen in the last 2.5 years in doing the volunteer work that I do. I honestly don't, I don't know how we fix it. That's how damaged it all is. And Sandria knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Sarah too. She does. She's in. Yeah. But you're right. It's hard, and
And then we put people into office who campaign on being progressive, and then a month into their tenure turn on their heels and just move forward with status quo.
Right. Yeah. Even with the economic, even with the economic portion of it, when they do come home, they're not coming home with a certificate of carpentry and things that they were building inside the prisons, because it's not just, we know it's not just license. You and I and some others know it's not just license plates. They make a whole, a lot of things, from executive oak wood and wood. What is it? Wood desks. I had, when I was working in the detective bureau, we had a big executive desk. I think it was maple wood or whatever you call it. Beautiful desk, was made upstate in prison and was shipped down to a lieutenant.
I keep telling people they need to embrace the Scandinavian way. Recidivism is low because they treat people like human beings, and they give them the skills that are actually necessary to live within society. And it's like night and day, and the data has supported it for decades. I mean, we have the largest
certificates or something.
We have the largest prison population in the world.
Right.
Because it's big business, and it's wrong.
Definitely. From the overtime, from the arresting officer on up, everybody makes money off. Everybody makes money off the lockup. So, sadly, yeah. Thank you, Erica. Rita?
So she looked like she went into another room for a second. And maybe Rita was going to call the question.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Rita, we're talking to you.
I unmute me.
You are.
Okay. Sorry, I had. I agree with everything that the woman just said before. However, that shouldn't deter us from keep knocking at the door. Someday that door may open. And I think that required viewing should be the Roger Moore movie, What Country Do We Invade Next? So it has nothing to do about invasion. It really has to do about how one segment of it is how other countries treat people who have been incarcerated. And they treat them like human beings. And they don't have the massive structure. They even don't even put them into a prison with locks and everything, bolts or whatever. It's truthfully a worthwhile movie. And I heard the woman say Scandinavia, that even in France, but I think our knuckles may get red and bloody, but I still think we have to keep knocking at the door. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this is
like, looks like Boaz's hand is up again. Oh, Boaz.
Okay.
So to Erica, first of all, I agree what she said. My only suggestion is, again, instead of looking at this as them versus us, like Democrat versus a Republican, I think that you need to find the common ground. What do I mean by that? For example, the Republican really care about the fact that you have people on the poverty line that you need to support, that you need the food stamp, all the social program and so on. And the way that you can come to the Republican, to everyone, is that basically say, listen, people did their time. Now, you want them to be successful. You want them to stand on their feet, or you want to continue to support them by unemployment and so on. If you look right now at the US, there are jobs for everyone. Really, there is there are more jobs than people looking for jobs. However, New York, the unemployment rate is so high. It's like double the rate of the rest of the states. So I think it's all combined. I know that your angle of things, from helping the people that have made the mistake in the past, and I'm with you 100%, but you need, maybe even in the letter, put something that, look at this from the economic perspective. The guy was in the jail, did his time, now he's out. You want him to be a normal citizen, like going at 8 a.m. to work, return back home at 5 p.m. And if he cannot get job, then we know what's the other alternative. You see my point? So you need to look at this as this is really, I think that this should be like a partisan, something that both the Democrats and Republicans support, because we don't want people, huge percentage of the population, see there cannot find a job. And I disagree with you with that there is some kind of a big brother that wants people going back to the jail because it's like a big system. No, I think that majority of the people wants normal society, that everyone going to work, So yeah, just put a, I know that it sounds from your words that you're passionate and you are inside, this process. So my only thing is maybe look at this from the economic perspective as well. And whenever you're talking with people, explain them that, if someone did his time, that's it, he's done. Now we want to help him find a job, because if you cannot find a job, then, in the US, if you don't have a job, you don't have health insurance, everything is tied around job. If you don't have a job, it's like, what's that? We know the alternative. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. And clean slate New York State, if it's passed, then it would work for them when they come home. And they will be able to help stimulate the economy by getting jobs instead of having to get on public assistance, because that's what some people have to get on when they return home, because they cannot get a job. So they have to apply for public assistance. That just contributes to poverty, because it's poverty for them. And they do want to work, but the doors are not open, and this would help them, because some jobs have background checks, or they have questions on the form, and then they have to disclose, of course, that yes, they were arrested or they did time, but they should be able to produce something, and they serve their debt to the society. Everybody deserves a second chance.
But Sandria, I thought that they can't ask you if you've served time.
Some applications, I don't know if it's removed now, but some applications do ask if you have a felon. I don't know if it's removed as of now, but I know when I came on my job many years ago, and even some years ago, I hear people that have felony convictions. They don't even go look for certain jobs because they know it's on the application. But you still can disclose it. It's up to, you can't lie. You could disclose it, and it's up to the employer if they want to hire you or not. So that's another part. So, but I believe this clean slate bill will help get rid of some of these hindrance. Mm-hmm.
Where are you sending this resolution, this letter?
Well, the letter will go to our local elected officials, as well as the mayor, right? How will we send it out? To the assembly, the assembly members, the senators, and the borough president will definitely get it. So everybody, certain people that usually get, I guess, our resolutions, right, Sarah? It'll be CC to.
Yeah. Well, how widely would we normally send? Because we usually send to the impacted elected officials, and so in this case, would we be sending it to the governor and our assembly members and senators?
So most frequently when we're sending a legislative package sort of resolution, we send it to the head of that legislative body and any executive branch that would also then need to sign off or not veto that legislation. So usually in this case, we're talking about a state bill, it would be the head of the assembly and the head of the Senate and the governor as well. And then all of our local elected officials get CC'd on those resolutions, so they get a copy of it as well, even if it's not directly addressed to them.
Okay, great.
And I also put in the chat what was called the Fair Chance Act. It was the Ban the Box campaign that the New York City legislature, the city council passed. And I want to, oh, no, I'm not going to give you a wrong date. But that was how they changed the law in New York City, where you're not allowed to, in writing on a written application, ask the question of were you convicted of a. Go to the website. It's better than what I'm going to say.
Yeah. Okay.
Stephanie, you had your hand up?
Yes, I did. So no, I intend to write my own letter, but I was just curious to know who should receive it.
So
Your letter is just as powerful too. Your personal letter is just as powerful because it's coming from a constituent. So go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
so
No, that was it.
yeah, so Will just suggested that we send ours to Governor Hochul, Speaker Heastie, Carl Heastie, and Senate Majority Leader. Is that her title? Andrea Stewart Cousins.
Right.
And then CC our local elected state officials.
Yes, perfect.
Oh, Stephanie, you're re-muted. So
Go ahead. You should be able to unmute Stephanie if you needed to say anything else.
Got it. I was looking at the second bill that you just put up. If you assume that this isn't going to pass, then I suggest that we send it to anybody who's running for election and get it into that dialogue. Does that make sense?
No.
No?
The community board is supposed to be nonpartisan and not participate in elections.
Okay, all right.
Because we are a city agency. So we do have to walk a tightrope there of advocacy in campaigns
All
versus
right.
advocacy to our elected officials.
Thank you for informing me on that. Thank you.
but Stephanie, if you're a part of any other organizations that are doing campaign that are hosting debates or candidate talkbacks, that this is a great issue to, or whether it's Clean Slate or any other, I'm sure that bill reform issues will continue to persist. And that these are all great questions to pose to candidates. And you get to control what the questions are if you're part of an organization that's sponsoring those kinds of debates. So to the extent
right.
that you can do that.
I got
And
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And your personal letter is your personal letter. You can send it to whoever you choose to, because it's your personal letter coming from you. So you can do what however you want to send it out and to whom.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good.
And before you speak, Rita, I would just say that we need to call the question so we can vote on the resolution. And I think that's the first thing you have to say when you speak.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
Or- okay. No, I was going to make this absolutely formal and call the question.
Second.
Okay.
There was a second.
Sarah
Okay.
seconded.
So if you are voting no, abstaining, or not voting for cause, please raise your hand right now to explain your vote. Otherwise, it is approved by a vote of 4-0 with Wendy, Sarah, Sandrea, and Rita as the participating voters.
Yay.
Okay. Thank you everyone for participating and getting this done, and then we'll make it a letter as well. So yeah. Moving on. Go ahead, Sarah. Take it away. Moving on.
Do we have any old business?
No.
Any hands for new business or something you'd like to share with the committee?
Can I offer a suggestion for a topic of a future meeting?
Yes.
Well, there was a piece of legislation that I feel is pretty awful that was approved and signed into law in Florida recently. The Don't Say Gay bill. And so I think that's a great subject to maybe consider of how we can look at social justice for LGBTQ Americans.
All right, go well, thank you. And if you have a speaker in mind, please let us know and we'll look around as well. We can work on that, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, and it would be great to, I don't know if there's any, I don't think there's anything being introduced in New York along those lines.
Thank God,
But-
no, that I've heard.
But to the extent that we can learn about kind of the spectrum of these awful bills, because we have the Texas bill too, anti-trans bills, that if you have ideas about someone who can give us a talk about what the trend has been and what we can do and what yeah.
And it's good to have the conversation here because you probably can spark some of the legislators to work on a bill. Yeah. And
We do have
Seawright,
a hand
Rebecca
up now.
Seawright. Okay. And Rebecca Seawright is always looking to help work on a bill. She talks about that all the time. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't call your name. Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's Jihan.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, Sarah, when you mentioned, like, if you have a speaker in mind, there is somebody that I know who's a great speaker, and his name is Dr. Julian Watkins. He's a health equity advisor at the Department of Health right now. So I don't know if that is some sort of conflict or not with the community board, but he does do lots of talks in community settings and outreach, and he has a great deal of knowledge when it comes to laws and policies, as well as the LGBTQIA community. So just wanted to throw that name out there.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. That's great. Thank you, Jihan.
Thank you.
And then just so folks have a heads up, next month, we are in the process of planning. So hopefully we will be able to successfully put on a meeting about a bill that Assemblymember Seawright has, I think she's one of the co-sponsors of a bill that is focusing on a basic wage equity for people in the disabled community, disability community. I didn't know this, but there has been an existing loophole that allows employers to pay people who have a disability less than minimum wage. And so we have an advocate, and we're hoping to get get a representative from the assembly member's office and a member of a city or state agency who can speak more about how this loophole came to be, or if it's just something that we haven't corrected that has always existed in the law. So that is what we are trying to put together on deck for April.
Okay. Announcements, yeah. Rita has her hand up again. Yes.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second it. Second it.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for a productive meeting and your participation. Thank you.
Thank you.